What's up, everyone? Chris Mack here, and welcome to another episode of Deep Dives. Today, we're diving into the white Freightliner cabover turned Autobot commander, Ultra Magnus. A brother, a leader, a soldier bound by duty. He may not have been chosen by the Matrix, but he still carried the war across decades of Transformer history. And of course, a big shout out to our resident comic historian, Supertron, for energonning this one up with all the Cybertronian lore. In Japan in the early 1980s, before Ultra Magnus had a name and personality, his legacy was already taking shape, piece by piece. In 1983, Battle Convoy debuted as part of Takara's Diaclone toy line, the same figure that would later become Optimus Prime. A year later, Takara gave Battle Convoy a bold new paint job and an armored trailer designed to interact with the line's transforming cars and jets. The result? Powered Convoy, a transforming car carrier with a unique twist. The trailer just wasn't for hauling vehicles, it could also become battle armor. That designed across the ocean in 1986 and became Ultra Magnus. But that wasn't the original plan. Like Hot Rod, Cup, and the rest of the Autobots who were introduced in Transformers the movie, Ultra Magnus was created specifically for the movie. Hasbro wanted a new cast of Autobots to headline the next generation of toys. And artist Floro Derry was brought in to design characters that started as animation, not plastic. This flipped the usual process on its head. In the past, the toys came first. Now, characters were designed for the story, and the toys would follow. The original concept for Ultra Magnus looked nothing like the final product. Early designs gave him a sleek, futuristic vehicle mode, a design that would eventually be given to Rodimus Prime. Instead, Hasbro turned to the mold from Takara's Powered Convoy line, repainting it and rebranding it as Ultra Magnus. In fact, Magnus would be the last Diaclone-era figure imported for the G1 toy line. Some fans think Hasbro briefly considered using this mold for a powered-up Optimus Prime. And it makes sense, the core robot was nearly identical to Prime, just in a stark white color scheme. And the trailer transformed into massive armor, a feature that would later inspire Power Master's Optimus Prime in 1988. Hasbro downplayed that inner robot in the movie and third season of the cartoon, most likely to avoid confusing kids by introducing a new character who looked just like Optimus, right after his death. From then on, Ultra Magnus was treated as a single, unified character, not a robot in armor. Even Power Master Prime was usually depicted in his full, combined form. Magnus was marketed as a city commander, just like Galvatron, a deliberate echo of Optimus and Megatron, now replaced by their successors. Early test footage for the movie even showed Ultra Magnus and Powered Convoy's original red and blue, but the color scheme was changed before production on both the movie and the figure began. Meanwhile, Floro Derry's unused design for Ultra Magnus would be recycled in the cartoon, appearing in the episode War Dawn as Orion Pax, Optimus Prime's pre-war form. In the Japanese exclusive special Scramble City, Ultra Magnus was introduced as a trusted lieutenant of Optimus Prime, overseeing the construction of Autobot City on Earth. The episode showcased him arriving to help defend Autobot headquarters when the Decepticons launched a massive attack, pitting combiners like Superion and Minosaur against one another. Magnus coordinated the defenses alongside the Citybot Metroplex, cementing his role as a high-ranking field commander and setting up his appearance in the movie, even if the special itself never made it to the US audiences. Ultra Magnus made his Western debut in the Transformers the movie, where he was thrust into a leadership role following Optimus Prime's death. Though hand-chosen by Prime himself to inherit the matrix of leadership, Magnus struggled under its weight, unable to lock its power when the Autobots needed it most. Galvatron destroyed him in battle, only for the Junkions to repair him, a resurrection that mirrored Magnus' own inner turmoil. He was still standing, but unsure if he could ever measure up to Prime. In the end, it would be Hot Rod who unlocked the Matrix and became Rodimus Prime. But Ultra Magnus remained a steady presence, loyal, reliable, and formidable, even without the title of leader and power of the Matrix. In Season 3, Ultra Magnus served as Rodimus Prime's second-in-command on Cybertron following the battle with Unicron. Though often stoic and duty-bound, the series occasionally peeled back that armor. From fierce showdowns with Galvatron to rare moments of levity, like the surprise birthday Daniel and Weasel organized in his honor, and even a temporary truce between Ultra Magnus and Galvatron's right-hand man, Cyclonus. His ongoing presence across the season wasn't just narrative, it was practical. The Ultra Magnus toy remained on shelves through 1987, helping ensure he stayed in rotation until the end of the show's run. But while Magnus remained steady on screen, the world behind the scenes was shifting. Transformers the movie had underperformed at the box office, and Hasbro opted to end regular production on the cartoon by late 1986 and switched to repackaging previous episodes to promote the toy line going forward. Instead of continuing with a full new season, they greenlit a brief 5-episode arc, the 2-parter, The Return of Optimus Prime, followed by the 3-parter, The Rebirth, to wrap up the American story. This final chapter saw the return of Optimus, the rise of new factions like the Headmasters and Target Masters, and the beginning of a second golden age of Cybertron. It marked the end of an era in the West. But in Japan, a new chapter for Ultra Magnus was just beginning. Whereas Hasbro wrapped up the US cartoon after Season 4's truncated finale, The Rebirth, Japan took a different path. Takara continued the story with the Japanese exclusive series called Transformers The Headmasters, set 1 year after the return of Optimus Prime. The show re-established Ultra Magnus as commander of Autobots City, stationed within Metroplex. He even gained new subordinates in the form of the Combiner team, the Trainbots, and a new arrival in the form of Six-Shot, who had recently come to Earth and assumed the role of Decepticon City Commander, putting him in direct conflict with Magnus. Though no longer front and center, Ultra Magnus maintained his post throughout the series, until his toy was discontinued in 1988. In keeping with Takara's approach of writing out or killing off major characters, once their figures left shelves, Magnus was permanently offline by Six-Shot in their final battle. Takara had already rejected Hasbro's decision to resurrect Optimus Prime, preferring to treat the deaths of discontinued characters as permanent. Magnus, like Galvatron, was phased out accordingly, and wouldn't be revived in Japanese continuity until nearly 3 decades later, when a tie-in manga gave him a new body to promote his Combiner Wars toy in 2015. Back in the States, Ultra Magnus had only a brief role in Marvel's Transformers comics. He appeared in the movie adaptation and a single future set toy adapted from the cartoon. However, the UK version of the comic gave him far more attention, continuing his rivalry with Galvatron in a string of dramatic battles. Unfortunately, the series was cancelled before their conflict could reach a final conclusion. After his G1 toy was discontinued in 1988, Ultra Magnus vanished from store shelves and from Transformers media for over a decade. Concept art was developed in 1990 for the Action Masters line, depicting Magnus as a non-transforming figure in G.I. Joe style, but the figure was never released. The entire Generation 1 toy line was winding down, and by 1991, Hasbro pulled the plug. When the Transformers returned with Generation 2 and then Beast Wars, Ultra Magnus was nowhere to be found. He would retroactively get a G2 figure in 2006 and a Beast Wars figure in 2012, long after both toy lines had ended. It wasn't until the early 2000s, when nostalgia for the 80s began to take hold, that Ultra Magnus made his return, both as a toy and in new storytelling. While the white inner robot identical to Optimus Prime featured in the G1 toy was never acknowledged back in the 80s, that didn't stop Hasbro and Takara from revisiting the idea. Over the years, dozens of Optimus Prime molds have been repainted in white and rebranded as Ultra Magnus. He's become something of a mirror image, like US Agent to Captain America. When a new Prime gets released, a Magnus repaint is rarely far behind. More recent G1 lore has tried to reconcile this. The white Prime-style robot is now often presented as Ultra Magnus' original form, used during his early days on Cybertron. Following a critical injury, he was rebuilt with the armored car carrier body fans know best. Some stories even assign this early version a different name, but in most merchandising and toys lines, he's still simply Ultra Magnus. Another more recent take on his origin presented Ultra Magnus as an identity that has been used by several different Autobots over the millennia, who have donned a suit of armor in the likeness of a legendary hero of the same name for Cybertron's distant past to honor his memory. The white Optimus lookalike is, of course, the most recent bot to wear the armor. From toy shelves to comics to animation, Ultra Magnus' story reveals a quiet burden few Autobots could bear. He was never meant to lead, but fate and Optimus gave him no choice. A soldier first, Magnus follows orders with conviction. But when the burden of command called, he didn't flinch. Even his enemies respected his courage and feared his willingness to sacrifice everything for the mission. So what do you think? Is Ultra Magnus a leader worthy of the Matrix? And how did you feel about his portrayal in the War for Cybertron trilogy? I'd love to hear your take. These characters we celebrate are more than just articulated plastic or art on a page. As Jack Kirby famously said, they are our modern mythos. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive, hitting that subscribe button and the Energon bell would mean the world to the channel. And if today's journey sparked your curiosity, keep reading, keep exploring. And we've put together a recommended viewing list and a recommended reading list for you down in the description. And as always, happy hunting, and until next time, ba week grana week ninny bong.